Values are essential to create realistic paintings.
If you want your drawings to improve quickly, getting control of your values is the key.
Values are awesome.
Values.
Values. Undeniably one of the most overwhelming art skills to master, but I think I may have found a way to make it more easier, so let's go to Photoshop. Now, the first time that I searched for how to learn to shade, I ended up finding images like this. According to this, halftone plus core shadow plus forward shadow plus penumbra, cast shadow, all of those components are the one that make an image. Wait, I don't know about you, but that's way too much for my little brain to handle, so let's remove some variables, shall we? How about we just pick 2 of those tones? Maybe we can pick only 1 for the shadows and only 1 for the lights. We're making an average of all the tones that are suggesting light or are in the light zone and all the ones that are in the shadow zone. Then we get something similar to this. Like if we apply something of like edge control knowledge, what is a form shadow, what is a projected shadow, then we get something like this, and this is looking already like 3D. It's the basic information that we need to build on top of later. And I quickly realized that when you do this first step, you get already 60% of the drawing done. Plus, it's way simpler to focus on building something like this than juggling around everything of like highlights, ambient occlusion, everything at the same time. Just pick 1 for the shadows, 1 for the lights, and then you have already a 3D sense of what is going on in your subject or object. That being said, we're going to add all the steps later as we are progressing on the image. This first step is something that is going to interest a lot of like aspiring anime artists, because if you take this layer here, it looks basically like the cell shading. So if you turn it off for a second and then you draw the local values of your subjects, when you turn back the shadow layer again with the light information that we did before, then you get something like this. It's already looking cartoonish, anime style, and then if we add some highlights, you see that it's already like a strong, really strong foundation to work on top of that. You can actually leave it like this. It's already getting all the information that you need about light and shadows. But we are not going to do that. We're going to keep working on that. So this is really a really strong first step for that. I highly recommend using one of these Asaro heads for this. It's basically a low poly version of the human head that shows the planes of the face. This is going to help us to know which planes of the face are facing the light and which are facing the shadows. I found a model of this Asaro head on ArtStation that I will link below on the description in case you need like a resource that you can position the light. I actually might just show it to you. Basically, you have like this model of the Asaro head that you can like play with the light, like the video. If you pause it and move it forward and around, you basically can position the light wherever you want, and then rotate the head and put it on the position where it's similar to the reference that you're drawing, so you can have like a live scenario to help you draw your reference better in case you're trying to do a study, for example, or you need reference for that. This is a really good one. But in case you want a better one, I made a video of a tool that I found that have a lot of like really good 3D models, including the Asaro head, and you can play with light, proportion, expressions, so I'll link it here in case you want to check that one as well. Now the next step is adding a third value to the formula, and here's where things get really interesting. The key thing for making appealing art is basically know where to put the information on the focal point so the viewer can instantly understand what you're drawing. For that, you need to separate your values into 2 groups, and that's why we did that first step, because we are going to build on inside of those values that we did, that we are keeping those groups together. If you see this reference that I have here of my skull, this one is focusing on the light groups. That means we can focus more on the texture of the material of the skull, which is like kind of plastic, but it's simulating bone, right? That's the advantage of focusing on the light part, is we can focus more on texture and stuff like that. But also it's more common for the human eye as well. There's some few cases that when you're going to focus on the shadow side and blow up the light part, but for now we're going to focus on the shadow side. And in this case, you can see like all the values that are inside of the shadow, if you see here my color wheel, are below this line, and they are kind of like all together except for the ones that are in ambient occlusion maybe, and still they're not that different in the value range, right? But as soon as you get to the light, you see that there's like a clear separation. There's like a group here in the middle, which we don't use. Because when we have that clear separation in between the 2 values here, we are making that clear that this belongs to light, this belongs to shadows. If you're going to do the light part, we're focusing now, like here in the light group, we're focusing on this side of the skeleton. It's a different vibe and it's giving a different mood that this one that is focusing here on the shadow part. Here on the light part, we were missing some details like the IG on the ground, details on the teeth, details on the eye socket and more stuff like that. But now we lose all the details from the light because we don't have the budget and value for that. You can see I have some examples for that here on my own drawings, for example. Everything that we're doing here depends on the mood that you're going to project. In this drawing here that I did of this guy, for example, all my value range is displayed on the light part, but in the shadow part, everything is basically one big chunk of value that is described in the shadow side, so we lose all that. And what is giving us is basically this mysterious guy that is hidden, like his face is hidden in the shadow, and he's showing only like his strength, like his muscles and stuff like that. So he's like portraying someone that is really strong, but we don't know who it is. We know it's something like his face is lurking on the shadow with like those bright pupils, right? It depends on the feeling that you want to portray. And here is the opposite, for example. Here we're focusing on the shadow part. All the light part are blown away because this is a light scenario, it's called dapple light. It's the only light that goes through the leaf of the tree. Those are blown away because our eye is focused on the shadow parts. Our eye are not adjusted to the light part in this drawing, and that is creating a more like close feeling, like a more intimate feeling between this girl and the little fellow here. So yeah, and if you want a better example of that, of how you can create different moods just focusing on one of the sides of the value spectrum, like this is the same drawing basically I did a couple of years ago, and you don't have that much value range on the light side because we're focusing here on the shadow part of the drawing, and then we have like this rim light of the sun going down, and yeah, it's like really wholesome, really cute, everything really cute basically. But then we go here and then now we're focusing on the light and everything. Most of the subject is in shadow and it feels, and also the light angle is going from below, so it feels really creepy, really intense. So all here depends on the mood that you want to create. The process from here is really straightforward. So I'm going to use this example that I made for you guys to explain you everything better. But when we are adding now our third value, I choose the light zone. So we're just picking the planes that are pointing to the light, but not directly. Our light is coming in this direction. So you can see already, first step is having a really 3D sense of the volume of this girl here. For the exercise, what I did is I put this girl and I tried to transform her into a sculptor. So I'm getting the information of the proportions of the head and face of that girl, and then I'm using the light information of this sculptor here. That's the one that I'm trying to recreate. And I'm using the Asaro Head to help me figure out which planes are going to be in shadow and which ones are going to be in light. First step, two values, edge control knowledge. And then second step, we add our third value, halftones. You can apply also edge control to this one, it's very important. Here, planes are not pointing directly to the light, but still in the light zone, are going to be treated as halftone, and it's going to have a value that is not too far away from our initial value here. Hey, don't forget that all the rules that I'm thinking here will be available for you as a PSD file on my Gumroad, and I'll also include some explanations and examples in real time if you would like a more guided experience. So don't forget to check the link below. And now back to the video. Then the fourth value is going to be something called the Terminator, and it's basically a value that separates light group from shadow group. And it's going to be anywhere where you have a separation in between, like a shadow, halftone, and light, something in between. You see the before and after, without and with the Terminator. It's basically something that is dividing those groups even more than the contrast that we create in the first place. Before we move to our next value, here's some key piece of knowledge that will make everything easier for you. Everything that I just told you works with all type of light sources, but there's something that you need to keep in mind about it. First, how strong and far away the light is. Second, light travel into a straight line, so that's really important. And the third, reflection reflections and reflected light counts as a light source. At least for me. And that is exactly our next value, reflected light. If we go back to our sphere example here, we can see that light goes from, it travels in this direction. It hits the ball here, basically. So it hits all of this of the ball. But then the one that doesn't hit it pass through, goes here to the floor. And since the floor have imperfections, it have texture and all that, it's going to bounce everywhere, in every direction. Then the floor is already turning into a different light source that is going to hit our subject in this direction here. And that's why I like to consider the floor a different light source, but it's like a weaker light source. Since it's like a reflection of the main light source, it's going to absorb a little bit of the main light, and then it's going to reflect that in some kind, right? Because it's going to grow stronger on the directions that is closer to it, but it's going to be weaker and weaker and weaker as the object gets far away from that. And that's actually the reason why we have something called the Terminator. It's basically the part of the sphere in this case that is further away from the light. So it's going to affect these parts most, and this part is going to be the darkest part of the shadow, which is the less affected from the reflected light. You will always have reflected light in some way on your drawings. And on that note, even the sky is a reflected light from the sun. So always when you have a light, a light source is going to be reflected in some way in the opposite direction. Now, the only exception to this is we are in space, and that's why the moon have completely black shadows, because there's no reflection there. In our example here of the statue that I did, you can see the before and after of the reflected light, and that's basically the light that is, for example, here. That's the light that is coming from this direction. Down here reflects on the chin, and here reflects on this area. Then the one that is reflecting here for the floor, so it's going also to reflect here, including this one. This one here on the face is reflected on this part of the eye socket, and so on and so far. Like every surface that is close to the reflected light is going to catch some of that reflection here. Now, the last two values are the darkest dark and the brightest bright of our drawing, which you can see here and here. And those are called ambient occlusion, that's the darkest dark, or AO, and the brightest tone is the highlight, or highlight. AO is basically the absence of reflected light on your subject, and it's going to be on places where the two objects are too close that light cannot go inside of those two. So you get those stuff in the crevices, like here, for example, where the hair is meeting the skin, or in the eyelids, or here in the caruncle of the eye and nostrils. So basically anywhere where the light have a really hard time to go inside of and bounce in between the objects, right? Here, for example, there's another place where you can always ambient occlusion is like where the object is meeting the floor. Here, for example, there's ambient occlusion here, or here in the holes of the statue in general. And now it's time for some highlights. So the highlights is the opposite of ambient occlusion. It's basically the brightest spot of the drawing. Don't confuse this with the part that is facing the most to the light source. Highlights are reflections of the light source onto the camera or onto the eye of your viewer. That means even though I'm not moving the light source, if I'm moving around this object here, this subject here, the brightest spot of the object is going to move with me, because it's the angle where the light is reflected on the object to my eyes. So in this case, since the light source is going in this direction, we will have the brightest spot on the nose here. There are some places that you will see. You can have artist license on this and put the brightest spot wherever you think is going to grab the most attention of the viewer. That means pupil of the eyes, nostrils and nose, and crevices where you think it's worse to indicate more volume and indicate more, how to say, things more of 3D, like here on the hair, for example. I like to do this kind of strands indicating the reflected light. So the light reflected on the object on my eyes. And it's going to give it a really way much 3D look into our object here. Highlights is the last step that I like to add to my drawings because it's the juice of the drawing. Once you add your highlights, for example, if I had some pupils here, so an iris here, for example. But basically, once you add that highlight there, it's already giving so much like juice and life to like look at that. After that, you can also maybe, if you are into that type of effects, you can add like a glowing effect light, like simulating more like atmosphere and stuff like that. And this is basically 80% of the drawing is done here. You get this like solid foundation to build on top of your drawings, just adding more details, and that's it. Now it's time for some homework, and I'm going to give you the exercise that I did for improving my shading skills. So we're going to draw some sculptures. The reason why I like drawing sculptures so much is because they don't have local values. They basically one single material, and you can focus only into drawing light and drawing shadow and reflections. Take a sculpture if you don't want to do what I did here of transforming a person into a sculpture. Take just a reference picture of a sculpture and try to draw it by yourself. And at first, I suggest you to do these steps a couple of times with different pictures of reference, and maybe after you feel comfortable with this, because this is the most important step, then go to the next steps to make the rendering look of your drawing, right? And you'll get something like this, where we have all the only reflections, lights, shadows and stuff like that, same material. I did add some color variation here to make it more appealing, but it's basically one single local value. Once you get comfortable with only two values, jump into this. And once you're done with this, then you're ready to go. Just add the local values on top of that and you'll be done. Like actually, I think if I add a multiply layer here, for example, let me try that. I'm kind of curious. And then if we want him to have also like a different eye color. You see how easy is that to add like more local, when you have already the structure of your like light and shadow, how you can add some colors and some local values to your drawing. Like let's make him with like, I don't know, blue eyes, blonde blue eyes. I mean, obviously you need to work on top of this, but you see how easy it is to go from this stuff to like local values and more render stuff later on. So yeah, practice. This is the most important part, guys. Try to do this first, and once you do this, like everything is going to be easier afterwards. I know, I get it. How can you apply all of this knowledge without knowing how to blend colors in the first place? Well, I have some secret tools for that, so you might want to check this video here.